on confidence of those assessed.
Indeed, and I think, as I think I said earlier, this may well answer some of the issues. If people think that they are anxious, certainly they're anxious about many of these assessments, their confidence would be improved. And if there are assertions being made by claimants, as some people suggest, that are exaggerated, that would be established as well, and I think we would all be happier with this. So I think we need to know if there is, it is a bit unclear, are we going to rerun another pilot? Is what's going on a pilot? And if so, how is that now going to be evaluated? So in conclusion, the three sets of questions that I've raised are, firstly, will the Minister accept that requests for copies of audio recordings should not be cited as a reflection of demand on the basis of the way the pilot was carried out? And would he accept the number of people who want to have their assessment recorded as a more appropriate measurement to use? And secondly, can he confirm exactly what steps are now being taken and how quickly to inform claimants that they can have their assessment recorded? Because if people don't know that they can have their assessments recorded, then they will hardly be asking for them. Can the Minister also indicate how many audio recording devices Atos now has access to? And as I already said, are we talking here about a wider rollout which is now to be permanent, or are we involved in something that is merely a further pilot? And finally, would the Minister accept Professor Harrington's call for more work to be done on this so we can have a proper evaluation carried out?
Mr. Hoban. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And can I, first of all, congratulate the Honourable Lady for securing the debate on the topic of audio recording, and also thank her for being unusually helpful in supplying her copy of her speech to my office in advance. And I hope that will enable us to have a reasoned debate about the way in which we're going to take forward audio recording of the WCA. Now, I think this is an important issue, and it's one that we must get right, and it fits firmly within our commitment to continuously improve the WCA process. The interest in audio recording through parliamentary questions, freedom of information requests, and indeed today's debate shows just how important this area is. We fully appreciate the benefits of offering audio recording to those who request it as part of their face-to-face assessments. And whilst there has been an increase in demand for the use, we need to be sure that we understand the evidence base, including the value to claimants. Making knee-jerk policy is not an option. The evidence needs to be balanced against potential costs. That is exactly the process my officials are engaged in at the moment, and I'll come on to that in more detail shortly. By way of context, and I think as the Honourable Lady has already outlined, my predecessor, the Right Honourable Member for Epsom and Newell, made a statement on audio recording back in February 2012. And at the time he stated that we will offer everyone who wants the opportunity to have their session recorded. Since then, we've strived to honour that commitment, and anyone having a face-to-face assessment has had the ability to request that their session be recorded. Now, at present, the policy on audio recording is that claimants can request their assessment to be recorded, either by using the service offered by DWP and Atos Healthcare, or by using their own recording equipment. Requests for an audio recording, whether using Atos' equipment or that provided by the claimant, must be made in advance when arranging a face-to-face assessment. This is to ensure that adequate notice to make the recording equipment available and is ready for use. I'll give way to my honourable friend.
I'm grateful for the Minister's comments. There is a problem, though, with providing your own audio equipment. I had a constituent who did that with her own son's work capability assessment. One tribunal then judged that it was admissible, another judged that it wasn't, because it wasn't clear that the nurse involved had given consent. So it's much more complicated for constituents to provide their own audio recording equipment. It would be much better, if it was very clearly offered and perhaps became completely standard that it was provided.
No, I think my friend is right to point out how difficult it is for people to provide their own equipment, and actually that's, and the making sure there are proper controls in place about consent, etc., a very important part of that. Now, presently, Atos have access to 31 audio recording machines, 3 of which are in for repair at the moment. They also have access to 21 cassette machines on loan from DWP. And we're constantly monitoring the update of audio recording assessments to ensure that the supply of this equipment meets demand. Now, it's worth putting this commitment into more context. Those who want an audio recording have the ability to request one, but a claimant has no legal right to an audio recorded assessment, and neither DWP nor Atos Healthcare have a legal obligation to provide an audio recording service or equipment. Our commitment is based on our intention to provide the best service we can to claimants. But given what I've just said, the unavailability of audio recording facilities does not mean that the WCA process can be delayed indefinitely. To do so unnecessarily would slow down the process, and since the introduction of audio recording, only 9 requested have been refused due to the unavailability of equipment. Now, as the Honourable Lady said, Professor Harrington's first independent review of the WCA recommended that the Atos healthcare pilot audio recording of assessments should be used to determine whether an approach is helpful for claimants and improves the quality of assessments. In making this recommendation, Professor Harrington rightly noted the need to balance potential drawbacks, such as the increased burdens on tribunals and the sharing of sensitive personal data, with potential improvements in both assessor and claimant behaviours. Following this recommendation, the audio pilot took place in the Newcastle Assessment Centre during spring 2011. The pilot involved 500 claimants being offered the chance to volunteer to have their assessment recorded. The results of the pilot showed that less than half of those offered end up having an audio recorded assessment, and only a handful, less than 1%, actually requested a copy of their assessment. Now, the Honourable Member has raised the concerns about the metrics we use when looking at demand for audio recording. We feel that metrics used are key to showing the exact demand during the pilot. I will give way, yes.
I'm sorry that the Minister has chosen simply to repeat the 1% issue. Perhaps he was going to come to this in a moment, I don't know. But the 1% figure, without addressing the criticisms which have been raised, and they've been raised to me by other people as well, that the context of the pilot made it very difficult for people to get that copy, and it was then evaluated very quickly.
It was that difficult to get hold of a copy. It may have been held on the handheld device, may then been recorded to transferred onto a computer, and the transcript being printed. But I don't think that actually stops people from asking for a copy. I really don't think that's the case, and I think it's in what I thought was a thoughtful speech, one of the points which I thought actually was not well substantiated. The results also provided little evidence that the audio recording of face-to-face assessments improve the quality of assessments, and there's only limited evidence of the improvement in the customer experience for some individuals. Of those who took part, less than half of claimants thought the audio recording would be helpful to them. So these are the key areas that Professor Harrington wanted to understand when he called for the original pilot. As a result, the department decided not to universally introduce audio recording of face-to-face assessments, on the basis that a facility for all assessments would be extremely costly, with no apparent substantial benefit or improvement in the quality of assessments. We have ensured that where claimants asked for an audio recording, we were in a position to be able to provide this facility. However, this is not intended to provide a permanent solution, but is important to help provide the evidence for further changes. Let me say a little about current demand. Since the introduction of a limited audio recording facility in September 2011, fewer than 4,000 claimants have requested a recorded assessment, and to date Atos have conducted over 2,000 audio recorded assessments. During that period, almost 1.5 million face-to-face assessments for both ESA and IB reassessments have been completed. Therefore, the proportion of recorded assessments that's taken place is less than 0.2% of all assessments carried out during this period. We need to continue to monitor this take-up, but universal recording for such low numbers doesn't seem prudent and may not provide value for money. Now, we've always been very clear that the current provision of a limited audio recording service is a temporary measure which needs to be evaluated fully before a final decision is taken on the future of the service. As I've already said, we need the evidence to show that investing potentially large sums of money into the provision of universal recording will improve quality and will be actually used by claimants. Now, we agree with the comments in Professor Harrington's third report. We express views about audio recording needing to improve the quality of assessments, and he said that, and I quote, "Further monitoring and evaluation work needs to be completed before a decision can be made." That's why we've decided to extend the evaluation period until the end of the summer, to allow us to gather additional data on quality and potential take-up for a subsequent robust decision on any future audio recording provision. We now have a benchmark for current take-up, but as has been rightly pointed out, we cannot get a true comparison until we routinely let people know about its availability. So I'm pleased to say that we are taking steps, therefore, to boost awareness of audio recording. The Department and Atos are currently in the process of amending written communications to claimants by updating WCA LA1C form. This document is sent to claimants when they need to arrange a face-to-face assessment and will provide more information on how to arrange an audio recording assessment. We expect this revised form to be sent out to claimants by the end of next month, once the necessary changes have been made and the form has been cleared for use. Yes, of course.
So I might be able to explain, first of all, why it has taken nearly 2 years to make that amendment. And if I understood him correctly, he said that the evaluation of all this process was being extended to the end of the summer. If the revised letter isn't going out until the end of next month, or even the end of this month, there will be very little time to judge whether that's made any difference.
Say to the Honourable Lady, the volumes of people going through the WCA are quite significant on a monthly basis. I think there are 100,000 claims made for ESA every month. So it won't take very long to find out just what the take-up rate is for this. But she makes an important point, and I think we do need to make sure that the pilot does have the right amount of time to gather sufficient evidence of the take-up rate. So I'm not quite sure. I think earlier she was arguing in favour of a shorter pilot. I think now she's potentially arguing for longer pilots in order to get the evaluation right. But she makes an important point. In addition to the letter, the Department has recently provided more information about the audio recording facility on the Inside Government section of the gov.uk website. So I do think that actually by ensuring that more people are aware of this facility, we will get a much better picture of how many people are actually applying for an audio recording and get a better assessment of the level of demand, which I think is a point that she made, and I think is the right point to make. We do need to understand what the demand actually is. In the past, we've asked Atos Healthcare to apply a processing safeguard, whereby requests for audio recorded assessments should be accommodated within 4 weeks, and where this is not possible, the assessment should go ahead without a recording. However, during the remainder of the evaluation period, to help ensure that client expectation can be met, the 4-week safeguard for requesting audio recorded assessments has been removed. This will enable us to gather a fuller picture of demand and capacity in order to inform a full and robust evaluation. So in conclusion, we are continuing to evaluate the costs and benefits of the current approach, and will await the results of a further evaluation during the summer before making a decision on the future of this service and how it can improve the WCA. Now, whilst I want to just finish these remarks. Whilst I acknowledge the increase in audio recording and potentially the recommendation of Professor Harrington on this matter, we also need to properly evaluate the costs and benefits of the extension of recording. We are doing just that. By raising awareness of the service, we will be able to gauge the demand for it. We are to assess the usage of the recordings by claimants and by tribunals, because it's important to understand whether tribunals want to see onto the transcripts of these recordings and evaluate their wider impact on quality. But I would just say this as a word of caution, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that the original evaluation demonstrates a reasonable level of interest from claimants, but a low level take-up of actual recordings and no impact on quality. But I am determined, as I've made clear in debates in this House since I took on this role, that I'm determined to improve the work capability assessment, but I will only be prepared to do so where the benefits are demonstrable.